I want to start off this video by talking about a topic that I'm really starting to hate in the discussion of hip-hop, the term underrated. What I mean is that people will often describe niche or lesser-known artists as being underrated compared to their peers. However, a common trend begins to appear in which a large majority of people will hold this opinion about an artist being underrated. Isn't that a paradox? If everyone thinks they're underrated, then why are they still in that category as an artist? Let's get into it, and the subject of our video today, Brooklyn's own Joey Bada. Now, I'm not going to claim to be Joey's biggest fan or anything, don't have any of his merch or any of his CDs or a Joey Bada tattoo, but what I will say is that Joey is often discussed as being an underrated rapper in the game and is also considered to be one of the best underrated rappers. So I'm going to break down how true this sentiment is, looking at his discography, some Spotify stats, and then we can have a discussion about the influences behind why Joey isn't as big as people claim he should be. So before we talk about the past, we should mention the present facts. So Joey is currently a 27-year-old Brooklyn native. He started in hip-hop in his late teenage years, both with his solo work and working with the group Pro Era. Joey is known in his early music for his progressive, insightful lyrics, along with jazz-infused instrumentals. Moving into his discography, please note I'll be skipping any singles and features that Joey did, primarily focusing on his larger projects that are listed on Spotify. So, getting into it, that takes us to the mixtape, 1999. Joey released this record in 2012, funnily enough, when he was the age of 17. The title of the project pays homage to the 90s era of rap music, which Joey was inspired by, believing this era of rap to be the golden generation, which subsequently ended in 1999, hence the title of his mixtape. This project also serves to showcase Joey's longevity in the rap game with his 10 years of experience, and also shows his early talent. For his first major release, harking back to a more traditional rap style, this mixtape was well received at its release, and still streams quite well with the song Survival Tactics currently accumulating over 60 million streams thus far. Not a bad start. Then comes the project Summer Nights, released in 2013. This project felt like to me to be a continuation of Joey's work on 1999, albeit to a much smaller and shorter extent. This is obviously seen and reflected in the streams on this project, not really amassing the same numbers as on 1999. I do like this project, however, and so I do recommend giving it a listen. I personally love the song My Jeep, so if you're looking to get into some Joey Bada music, I would start off there. We'll now talk about Joey's first major studio album, Before the Money. This project was released in 2015, and to be honest, I hadn't really listened to this album before deciding to make this video, and I'm super glad that I did. This album feels like Joey took everything he had learned off of Summer Nights in 1999 and refined it to an expert level. Now, if you don't believe me, Anthony Fantano gave this album an 8 back in the day, so just, shut up, it's automatically good, okay? The song Paper Trails has also amassed 100 million streams, showcasing the popularity of this album and this track. As well, the cult classic Christ Conscious has significantly high streaming numbers as well. Alright, so now we're going to talk about Joey's big boy album, All-Amerikkkan Bada, released in 2017. Now, this album was released 5 years after 1999 came out, and this is also the project where I first started to hear people talk about Joey Bada in a public setting. On All-Amerikkkan Bada, Joey created an album where he paired social commentary with music that people would actually want to dance to. Essentially, instead of making a traditional rap album as he had done in the past, Joey created a modern hip-hop album with a message. It was a majorly successful album and is likely Joey's most commercially successful piece of work to date, and this is known to be true as 2 of his most streamed songs in his discography come from this project, and in my experience, these 2 songs are his most well-known songs, and these songs are Temptation and Devastated if you didn't already know. We then get to Joey's most recent project, 2000. Released earlier this year, and also came out 5 years after All-Amerikkkan Bada. Joey somewhat peels back the layers with this project, representing somewhat of a return to his traditional progressive rap roots, signified quite obviously by the fact that the album is titled in such a way to be a sequel to 1999. I think this title change also signifies a return of Joey's love for music and hip-hop culture. The 1990s is what Joey considers to be the best era of music, which ends after 1999. We then see Joey transition into almost a more modern style of rapper on his future projects, such as All-Amerikkkan Bada. And while this evolution may have made Joey commercially more successful, he may not have enjoyed creating this type of music as much as his early work. 2000 symbolizes both Joey honoring the past of hip-hop, such as his 1990s influence, but it also showcases Joey's recognition for the shift in rap. And that summarizes a lot of the material on Joey's album, traditional mixed with modern. This album is obviously still a new release, and so sales and streams are subject to extreme change. However, early sentiments around the album's release indicate that people are disappointed with the early sales for the caliber of rapper that Joey is, leading to the increased suggestions that Joey is being slept on. So why is it that Joey Bada isn't a bigger name in hip-hop? Why is he underrated if so many consider him to be underrated? There's one obvious fact that I'd like to mention. Joey's music is good. Extremely good. As someone who hasn't been a huge listener of his music before, only really listening to one-off songs here and there, I was quite glad I decided to start creating this video, as I'm not sure if I would have gotten around to listening to his music otherwise. And I think that's why Joey and a lot of other underrated rappers struggle. There's no incentive to listen to their music. People tend to hear, oh, so-and-so is such an underrated artist, and it turns them off from actually listening to the artist's music. So why is that? Well, because as much as hipster culture would tell you otherwise, if you don't conform to the mainstream, they don't like you. Someone like J. Cole is in a very similar mold to Joey in terms of rap style. The reason they are on two different levels of popularity is because while still maintaining his style, J. Cole, for earlier parts of his career, made projects that conformed to the mainstream. Now granted, Joey has done that too with All-Amerikkkan Bada. However, he then took a 5-year hiatus without releasing a solo project, and then released an album that, while much more authentic to his style of music, does not conform to mainstream hip-hop audiences. That sucks. 2000 is an extremely refreshing album to listen to compared to a lot of the other projects that released this year. You can tell Joey was really trying to flex his undeniable skills in his lyrics and song selection. Yet, it might not get as much attention as it should, as it will get flagged as being a non-mainstream / underrated album, and so people will talk about it to seem cool, but won't actually sit down and listen to the whole thing. Whereas in the mainstream, people will sit down and listen to a popular project, whether on purpose or accidentally through radio or social media, as people and networks don't want to miss out on what is trendy in their communities. Meanwhile, people don't worry about non-mainstream projects, as there is no fear of missing out. Therefore, being deemed underrated can actually be more of a hindrance than a compliment. However, I do recognize that for Joey, 2000 is more or less a warm-up project. He has been out of the race for a bit, but now he is working his way back to the table and back to the mainstream. If this truly is only a warm-up, it is an extremely high standard that he is setting, and I am much more excited now to see what he'll create next. As a controversial opinion and the conclusion of this video, I would say that in terms of rap skill, Joey could be considered top 5 in the rap game right now. I just hope he continues his trajectory of rap superstardom so we can get many more moments just like this.
Joey fucking badass! Joey fucking badass! Joey fucking badass! Joey fucking badass! Joey fucking badass!
Put it down in this motherfucking city to city. Coming down, motherfuckers, let me know that I'm pretty. Every know that I'm ready from state to state. I'll put you out of your place. You nigga fuckers is late. I said Joey fucking badass! that you niggas ever seen. Woke up in the stadium.